It began, as the most unbelievable stories often do, with an ending. The winner of the grand prize at the Sundance Urbanism and Society Film Festival had just been announced, and the name that echoed through the hall, that would soon ripple across the world, was mine, Sophie Lebrun. For 15 years, I had been a social urban planning specialist, a leading voice on smart city projects across Asia, my life a carefully curated collection of data points and efficiency metrics. To me, San Francisco was supposed to be nothing more than the final, unremarkable stop on a long tour. A footnote. But a single night in that city ignited a fire in me, a clash of conviction so fierce it led to a spectacular falling out with my superiors in Paris. It compelled me to cash in my own retirement fund, to risk everything, to create a deeply personal work. I had to stop everything, abandon all my meticulously laid plans, and document the story of that night. What happened? What was it about that city that made me willing to sacrifice a career built over a decade and a half? What was the secret of San Francisco? Could such an incredible city truly exist? This is the story of an American city that shook Europe to its core. And so, the secret of the 24 hours in San Francisco that changed a French expert's life is about to be revealed. I am Sophie Lebrun, a member of the Social Urban Advisory Committee for an international development organization. In the last month of my comprehensive Asian American study, I was buried in data, summarizing a whirlwind tour that had taken me from the hyper-efficient streets of Singapore to the sprawling, futuristic landscapes of Tokyo and Shanghai. To be perfectly honest, San Francisco wasn't even on my original itinerary. The project I was leading was about applying successful Asian and American smart city models to European urban centers. In my mind, the Bay Area was simply a glorified high-tech manufacturing hub, a coding factory for the world. The flawless civic systems of Singapore, the clockwork precision of Tokyo's infrastructure, the relentless, sky-piercing development of Shanghai, those were the models I was seeking. San Francisco, with its reputation for chaotic politics and social challenges, seemed like a distraction. I was in Shanghai, compiling my final notes, when my local liaison, Elena, a sharp, passionate urbanist whose family had emigrated from Mexico, made a cautious suggestion. "Sophie," she said, her tone gentle but firm, "you should really see San Francisco, even just for a day. It's different." I didn't bother to hide the weariness on my face. The data was sufficient, my conclusions already forming. But there was an earnestness in Elena's eyes that made it difficult to refuse outright. "It's not exactly famous for its urban planning, is it?" I countered, a touch of dismissiveness in my voice. "In the eyes of the world, it's just Silicon Valley's playground." Looking back, the arrogance in that statement is staggering, but at the time, it was my default setting. The practiced condescension of a French intellectual, a European expert observing what I considered the less refined world. Elena managed a sad, tight smile. "We're the heart of the global AI and software revolution," she replied quietly. "The code that runs the modern world is written in unassuming office parks just south of the city. But the world only sees us as a server farm. If you saw it for yourself, I think your perspective might change." Her words struck a chord. My flight back to Paris was the next day. The journey was all but over. I relented, adding a one-day layover. I treated it as a brief holiday, a pause button before my final report, with no intention of gathering any serious data. On the BART train from SFO into the city, I still had my laptop open, tweaking spreadsheets for my time in Tokyo. The scenery outside the window was a familiar pastiche of American sprawl, freeways, low-slung buildings, and residential tracts that lacked any distinct aesthetic charm. Elena pointed toward the peninsula stretching out to the south. "See over there? That's Silicon Valley. The brains of countless smartphones and AI algorithms are born there. But like I said, the world just sees the glossy corporate campuses, not the soul of the place." Her words lingered, a subtle challenge to my preconceived notions. Tomorrow, I'd be on a plane back to Paris. This trip, this entire project, would be concluded. Until that moment, It had never once crossed my mind that San Francisco would be the city to completely upend my life. I saw it as one last box to check, a final, perfunctory task. But fate has a strange and beautiful sense of humor. The greatest transformations I've learned often lie in wait where we least expect them. The moment I stepped out of the BART station and into the chaotic symphony of a downtown Muni Metro station, everything started to shift. I had braced myself for the usual big city pandemonium, the crush of bodies and the frantic energy. But what I found was a strange, underlying order. People moved with a shared, unspoken rhythm. As we transferred to a streetcar, the first thing that truly astonished me was the tactile paving for the visually impaired. It wasn't just a token ADA-compliant feature for show. It was a functional, living part of the station's ecosystem. I watched, fascinated, as a blind man navigated the platform with confident sweeps of his white cane. The crowd instinctively, almost unconsciously, parted for him, creating a seamless path. What happened next was even more surprising. He stopped, turned his head in my direction, and spoke. "You're not from around here, are you? First time in the city." His accent was pure San Francisco. I was stunned.
Yes.
How could you possibly know? A wry smile touched his lips. "I can hear it in your footsteps." The hesitation. "Don't worry," he added. "This is a city you can navigate with your eyes closed. It's got its problems, more than a few, but we look out for each other here." That sentence branded itself onto my mind. A city you can navigate with your eyes closed. It was a level of communal trust, of implicit human connection I had never witnessed in the grand, historic avenues of Paris or the bustling streets of London. During our lunch break, exploring a vibrant community center in the Mission District, I had another jolt of surprise. We stepped into the public restroom, and it was immaculately clean. But more than that, inside the women's restroom was a dispenser for free sanitary products. And in both the men's and women's restrooms, there were clean, sturdy baby-changing stations. This meticulous attention to the small, dignified details of human life was something I'd rarely found in the other, higher-ranking cities on my tour. Strange, I muttered to myself, almost unconsciously. "What's strange?" Elena asked, overhearing me. "San Francisco's Smart City Index is lower than Singapore's or Tokyo's," I mused aloud, "but the actual quality of life for its citizens, the sheer convenience and thoughtfulness, seems higher." Elena's response was calm, measured. "We have world-class technology, it's true.
But we're not led by it.
It's a tool, not a master. So we've learned to rely on ourselves, on each other. People helping people. We call it community." Her words resonated deeply. As we walked through the colorful, mural-lined streets of the Mission, my conviction grew. As an elderly man in a wheelchair approached the doorway of a small bookstore, the young clerk inside saw him coming, immediately came out from behind the counter, and held the door open, offering a warm greeting. No one had instructed him to do it. It was a simple, reflexive act of human decency. As dusk settled, we found ourselves at a sprawling food truck park, the air thick with the delicious scents of a dozen different cuisines. Here, I saw yet another tableau of this city's quiet grace. A blind customer approached a ramen truck, and the chef, a burly man with tattooed arms, leaned over the counter and loudly, clearly recited the entire menu for him. He then guided the man to a nearby table, ensuring he was settled before returning to his grill. The other customers in the long line waited patiently, without a single sigh of complaint or a roll of the eyes. In that moment, a profound realization washed over me. This wasn't about technology. It was about people. San Francisco wasn't smarter because of its advanced tech infrastructure. It was warmer because of the profound kindness of its inhabitants. Walking back to my hotel that evening, for the first time on my entire trip, I felt an urgent need to write something down, something personal. My previous travels had been an exercise in data collection, a cold analysis of systems. But there was something in this city that defied quantification, something that couldn't be captured in a spreadsheet. "Can we stay one more day?" I asked Elena, the question surprising even myself. A brilliant, Knowing smile spread across her face. Of course, she said. The real San Francisco comes alive at night. After dinner, Elena took me to the Embarcadero. Honestly, I was expecting a spectacular light show, something to rival the dazzling skylines of Shanghai's Bund or Singapore's Marina Bay. But what I saw was entirely different. The Bay Bridge was a glittering tapestry of light, yes, but what truly captured my attention was happening on the ground. On a wide pier, a diverse group of young people were having a potluck, sharing dishes from Tupperware containers. One had brought homemade pasta salad, another a fragrant curry, another a box of fresh fruit. Further down the promenade, an elderly man was struggling with several heavy grocery bags. A passing college student, headphones around his neck, didn't hesitate. He jogged over and offered to help, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But the most astonishing thing was the sense of safety. Even as the hour grew late, women were walking and jogging alone, completely at ease. This was simply unimaginable in many parts of Paris. I saw a woman practicing yoga under a lamppost, and a pair of female students sitting on a bench reading after 10 p.m., lost in their books. Elena's voice was soft beside me. San Francisco has one of the lowest violent crime rates for a major U.S. city. It's one of the safest places in the country, but that's not the image people have of us. She pointed to a plaza nearby. A group of older women, aunts, and grandmothers, from the look of them, were doing a lively salsa dance to music from a portable speaker. A crowd of young people had gathered around, some clapping along, others cheering them on. Strange, I whispered again. In other cities, the stars of the nightlife were the illuminated buildings, the architectural titans. But here, in San Francisco, the light radiating from its people was far more brilliant. A peculiar feeling settled over me. I realized how shallow my definition of urban beauty had been. The atmosphere created by these warm, interconnected human relationships was infinitely more captivating than any dazzling light display or monumental skyscraper. On the late-night streetcar back to the hotel, I saw more of the same. An elderly gentleman gently steadied the briefcase of a young professional who had dozed off. A teenager gave up his seat for a pregnant woman. A small group of strangers helped a man who'd had too much to drink, making sure he didn't stumble into the street. Late that night, alone in my hotel room, I opened my personal journal for the first time in years. All my professional thoughts went into my work notebooks, but this was different. This feeling needed a different space. San Francisco's night is illuminated not by the city's lights, but by the light of its people shining on each other, I wrote. This city may engineer the world's most advanced AI, but its warmest creation is its own heart. After writing those words, an indescribable emotion washed over me. In 15 years as an urban planner, I couldn't remember ever feeling this way. San Francisco was nothing like the high-efficiency, data-driven cities I knew. It was something more. The next morning, after a restless night, I woke early and went for a walk around the hotel. Tucked away in a small alley, I found a classic American diner, its lights already blazing in the pre-dawn gloom. It looked like a scene from a movie. On a whim, I called Elena. She agreed to join me immediately. "You have to try this sourdough French toast," she said as we sat down in a worn vinyl booth. "Best way to start the morning." The owner, an older woman with a radiant smile and sharp, intelligent eyes, came to our table. "Call me Rosa," she said warmly. But what truly surprised me was that she took our order on a sleek, modern tablet. "Ha! This thing is smarter than I am," she chuckled, patting the device affectionately. It was a perfect, beautiful contradiction, a timeless, traditional diner seamlessly integrated with the latest technology. Elena explained it was part of a local nonprofit initiative to help small businesses bridge the digital divide, with user interfaces designed to be so simple that an 80-year-old grandmother could master them. Even more surprising was the arrival of a young man who introduced himself as Miguel. He was a university student from a Salvadoran immigrant family. "I volunteer here in the mornings," he explained. "The adults have to get to their jobs early, so I help out." There was a maturity in Miguel's voice that belied his age. I watched, impressed, as he helped Rosa process payments and explained menu items to other customers. Elena added, "There are hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Latin America and all over the world in the Bay Area. We've managed to create a real melting pot, a place where diverse cultures can coexist with mutual respect." "What's the system?" asked, my planner's mind kicking in. "What's the official program?" Miguel answered with a proud smile. "There's no system. We just help each other. Rosa makes amazing food. I help her with the tech stuff. The customers get a hot meal before they start their day. The world outside can be crazy, but in here, we keep each other warm." And in that instant, I understood. This was the perfect urban design I had been searching for. Not a complex, top-down system or vast, impersonal infrastructure, but a resilient, organic structure built on people naturally meeting each other's needs. While we ate our French toast, I chatted with Rosa, and she said something that struck me to my core. A city's first job is to make sure its people don't go hungry. That's more important than building 100 shiny skyscrapers. We might not be the biggest city, but we have big hearts. Rosa's simple philosophy shook me. As an urban planner, I had always prioritized efficiency, growth, and competition. Listening to her, I began to fundamentally rethink the true purpose of a city. A week later, I was back in Paris, preparing to submit my final report at our organization's headquarters. The data from Singapore, Tokyo, and Shanghai was all neatly compiled, everything fitting my expected models. But when I got to the San Francisco section, I felt a heavy sense of inadequacy. There were too many things that numbers couldn't express: the spontaneous kindness of its citizens, the natural network of mutual support, the palpable warmth of its human relationships. In the end, I made a radical decision. I designated San Francisco as the primary recommended model, framing my entire report around the theme of a human-centered smart city and proposing the application of its principles in Europe. The backlash was immediate and severe. My director, Pierre Dubois, stormed into my office, his face a mask of disbelief. "Sophie, are you out of your mind? The San Francisco model? A city famous for its homeless problem and political dysfunction? It's a tech factory, nothing more. But in terms of citizen satisfaction and practical quality of life, it excels," I argued, my voice rising with passion. "Sophie, to most of the world, San Francisco is just an eccentric American city on the coast. It holds no real sway on the world stage. What could we possibly learn from them? Besides," he added, lowering his voice, "it's politically messy. It doesn't project the image of order and control we need." I was furious. To dismiss a genuinely superior model of human living because of prejudice and political optics felt like a betrayal of our entire mission. "Then you need to go see it for yourself." "A waste of time," Pierre scoffed. "I'd rather study Swiss social cohesion. There is nothing for us to learn from San Francisco." The reaction from my colleagues was similar. Jean-Luc, my editor, was brutally frank. "Sophie, it's not Japan with its ancient temples or China with its immense scale. What could possibly be special about it?" They were judging an entire city based on outdated perceptions and its place in the global pecking order, refusing to look at the reality on the ground. It was infuriating. It is the manufacturing heart of over 60% of the world's leading AI development. I countered, my voice sharp. The phones in our pockets, the algorithms that shape our lives, they all depend on the minds in Silicon Valley. Their technological prowess is world-class. And what does that have to do with urban planning?
Jean-Luc sneered.
Everything. I insisted. They possess the most advanced technology on the planet, yet they have not lost their human-centered focus. An engineer designing a neural network who then goes to a local diner to eat with a woman like Rosa, that is a true smart city. Days of argument were fruitless. Instead, I was accused of being overly infatuated with America, of losing my professional neutrality. It was then that I made the most significant decision of my life. I refused to submit the official report. Instead, I would use my own funds to produce a documentary about San Francisco. I would tell the story myself. My colleagues thought I had lost my mind, but my conviction was absolute. I had to show the world what I had seen. I withdrew my entire retirement savings, liquidating my personal investments to finance the film. Everyone around me advised against it, but I had no regrets. The inspiration I had found in San Francisco was not something I could keep to myself. The finished documentary had two central themes. The first was a story of technology and survival, the immense pressure on Silicon Valley, the way it's often dismissed by the old world powers, and its resilient strategies for thriving nonetheless. The second was a story of people and community, the warmth of the early morning diner, the citizens helping the visually impaired, the school children running earthquake drills, the seamless harmony between new immigrants and longtime locals. Jean-Luc, in a surprising act of quiet rebellion, secretly changed the film's title from the dry, Academic San Francisco, a smart city analysis, to the heartbeat of the Bay, a story of a city the world overlooks. Why did you change the title? I demanded. Because it's the right one, he said simply. San Francisco isn't a machine. It's a living organism. A city the world ignores, but one that beats with a powerful heart. He was right. When we submitted it to the Sundance Urbanism and Society Film Festival, the title immediately caught the jury's attention. On the day of the premiere, my nerves were electric. 10 minutes into the film, I could feel the atmosphere in the theater begin to shift. The scene of Rosa, the diner owner, expertly using her tablet, drew gentle laughter. Miguel's declaration that people are the system was met with a ripple of applause. But the most emotional reaction came during a sequence showing elementary school children practicing earthquake drills. On screen, they held up drawings they had made about protecting their city, their community. A wave of audible awe went through the audience. The final scene was the night view from the Embarcadero, not of glittering skyscrapers, but of the soft, warm light of people connecting with one another. Then, the closing text appeared on the screen. The San Francisco Bay Area. Population, nearly 8 million. The vital production hub of the world's high-tech industry. A place often overlooked by the world's established powers, but perhaps the city with the warmest heart. When the film ended, the audience rose to their feet in a thunderous standing ovation that lasted for more than 5 minutes. During the Q&A, a juror asked, his voice filled with wonder, "Does a city like this really exist?" "It does," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "It's a real place." "Unbelievable," he murmured. "To find that kind of community in the 21st century." "I saw it with my own eyes," I said. "Perhaps it's the pressures they face, the earthquakes, the high cost of living, the political scrutiny, that make them stronger, that force them to rely on each other." That night, the awards were announced. The award for Best Documentary goes to The Heartbeat of the Bay, a story of a city the world overlooks. As the title was read, it felt like a dream. On stage, accepting the award, I gave my speech. "Cities don't need to be smarter," I said, looking out at the crowd. "They need to be warmer. San Francisco has proven this. They have world-class technology, but their most authentic creation is their humanity. Though often ignored by the international community, they have never ignored each other. We should measure our cities not by their shiny facades, but by the value they place on their people." After the award, incredible things began to happen. My documentary became more than just a film. It became a catalyst for policy change. The European Union contacted me, requesting to use my film as official reference material at a Smart City Policy Conference in Brussels. The city of Amsterdam announced it was launching a new initiative inspired by San Francisco's community kindness policies. The people in the film were changed, too. Miguel realized that his volunteer work wasn't just about doing a good deed. It was a vital part of what made his city livable and warm. A letter of thanks from the San Francisco mayor's office arrived, with a message that moved me to tears. "You helped us see ourselves again." The citizens, they wrote, were rediscovering the value in their own daily acts of kindness. 6 months later, I received news that the city of San Francisco wished to present me with the key to the city, its highest civilian honor. I was the first foreigner to receive it for making a film about them. As I flew back to San Francisco for the ceremony, The feeling was indescribable. The city I had once dismissed as a mere layover had become the turning point of my entire existence. When I arrived at the airport, I was met by an unexpected welcoming committee. Rosa, Miguel, a group of engineers from Silicon Valley, and, of course, Selena. "Welcome home, Sophie," Miguel said, grinning as he handed me a bouquet of flowers. The boy from the diner was now a confident young university student. The ceremony was held at City Hall, attended by hundreds of citizens. The mayor gave a speech. Sophie Lebron, she said, woke us up to the value we had forgotten in ourselves. We are often defined as a tech hub, a foodie paradise for tourists. But Sophie saw our true face, the people helping each other in a diner, the citizens looking out for the vulnerable on our streets. The high-tech engineer sharing a meal with the grandmother who runs a breakfast joint. That is the real San Francisco. When I stepped up to the podium to receive the award, I gave a speech that I still remember to this day. I didn't try to remember San Francisco, I said. San Francisco made it impossible for me to forget. For 15 years as an urban planner, I considered only efficiency, development, and competition. But this city showed me something different. The true strength of a city is not its buildings, but its people. The world may see you as a capital of technology, but I saw the truth. You are a people who, in the face of crisis and challenge, have never lost your warmth. It has been the greatest honor of my life to tell your story to the world. As my speech ended, the crowd rose to their feet. A middle-aged man in the audience shouted, his voice thick with emotion, "We exist. Even if the world doesn't recognize us, we are here." His cry was taken up by others, a chorus of voices echoing through the grand rotunda. We exist. In that moment, I truly understood what my documentary meant to the people of this city. They had spent so long needing to prove their existence on a global stage defined by others. My film had simply told them, you do exist. Your lives have value. Your warmth is real. After returning to France, I made one final decision. I formally resigned from my advisory position. I was done with that world. Everyone around me tried to dissuade me, but my mind was made up. I wanted to put what I had learned from San Francisco into practice. 6 months later, I was back in the city, not as a visitor, but as a resident. The first place I went, of course, was Rosa's diner. It had been 2 years since I'd last seen her and Miguel. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," Rosa teased. "It's the famous movie lady." "Not anymore," Miguel corrected her with a smile. "Now she's one of us." "That's right," I said, sliding into my favorite booth. The French toast was so good, I had to come back. I paused, then added, "Actually, I live here now." So I came home. Miguel had grown so much. He was now excelling in his computer engineering program. But he still came to help Rosa in the mornings. And some things had changed. The tablet now ran a custom ordering app that Miguel had developed himself. "See, Sophie? I built this. I designed it to be even easier for Rosa to use. And I'm sharing it with other small shops in the neighborhood for free." He was already on his way to founding a social enterprise. 2 more years have passed. I still live in San Francisco. My documentary has been screened in over 50 countries. One day, Miguel came to see me, bursting with news. He was now a freshly graduated engineer at a top semiconductor firm. "My first chip project was a success," he said, his eyes shining. "We improved energy efficiency by 30%. He had become a world-class engineer, but he still showed up at the market every weekend to help Rosa. "You can be a tech expert," he'd say, "but you can't forget your roots." Rosa raised me. One evening, I was walking alone along the Embarcadero. It was still filled with that same light, people illuminating each other. The salsa dancers, the young people sharing food, the families strolling together. The Bay Area may be a small corner of a large country, but it has an immense heart. They use world-class technology to push the boundaries of artificial intelligence, but they have never lost the warmth of the early morning diner, where a grandmother and an immigrant's son work side by side. Under immense economic pressure, they continue to defend their identity and their values. A people often overlooked by the international community, who quietly live their lives with grace and resilience. The city they have built is San Francisco. Just like the title of my film, this is a city where a human heart is always beating. An island of humanity that may not seem important on a world map, but whose existence is vivid, undeniable, and true. I am no longer an urban planning expert. I am now a citizen of San Francisco. A person who, in the rhythm of my daily life, listens to the warm heartbeat of a city the world too often overlooks.